It's time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
Every team has its own journey, its own path. We're finding out the journey that we were destined to have with dealing with all the adversity and all that. But I like what's in place. So it's, so I'm comfortable with where we're at. And I'm comfortable with the guys that are kind of behind the curtains that haven't been able to step on the stage yet.
We'll adjust again. We've had to do it already. And our guys have done well with it for the most part. And, you hate for anybody to be hurt right now. This is a exciting time of year. We've got a lot of other guys on scholarship, and it's their turn to step up and play and do good things.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back into Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network here on a Friday night. We wrap up a huge weekend sports here on Sports Talk with another big night for you. Phil Kornblut in Myrtle Beach. We're at the annual meeting of the South Carolina Football Coaches Association, their clinic. They have been clinicking since last night and all through the day today. Coming up tonight, they've got a nice awards banquets with some coaches being honored, some Hall of Fame inductions. Also, we'll have for you the two staffs for the Touchstone Energy North-South All-Star football game. We'll have that announcement for you here on Sports Talk coming up a little bit later on. So plenty going on here. And, of course, it's baseball time all across the country. More to our interest here in South Carolina, the opening of the college baseball season. Been monitoring the games around the state. And Will Pelagic, Professor Tom Hayes back at our studios in Columbia, been doing the same thing. Things are not going well so far in Columbia, in Clemson. Things are going extremely well at Coastal and at Charleston. We'll update everything on that in just a moment. And, of course, basketball coming up tomorrow. It's Legends Weekend at USC. The Gamecocks taking on, of course, one of the national powers, the SEC leader in Auburn. Can they muster enough to pull off the upset? And then on Sunday, Clemson and Duke, in what's a huge game for both of these teams in terms of not only the ACC race, but the national picture as both are vying for maybe a 2 seed. Clemson's got to get a big win on Sunday, guys, to overcome that loss they had down at Florida State. And we've got NASCAR, the Daytona 500 on Sunday. We got so much going on. My head is spinning.
It is spinning, and the unfortunate news for Clemson that we got earlier today involving guard Sheldon Mitchell, according to Brad Brownell, looks like he's not going to be able to play. It said it was unlikely for him to practice today and also unlikely for him to play on Sunday, and that forces Clyde Trapp into the mix, basically thrust into action as the guard basically to play alongside Marquise Reed and Gabe DeVoe in that backcourt, which will have a gaping hole in it against a Duke team that may or may not have Marvin Bagley Jr. But for Clemson, like you said, Corn and Pro, this is an opportunity for the Tigers to get a win on their home floor against a quality opponent, but they need a victory to overcome the loss they had Wednesday night, which I think we all could agree was one they had in their grasp that let slip away.
Yeah, it's as I said before, the strange things happened in Tallahassee to Clemson on several occasions. But the key point here is, Corn, I still say as a coach, is difficult. But I think for your team, this is a golden opportunity in front of what's expected to be a sellout crowd at Clemson. And you'd love to take Duke down. But then again, part of you, the pragmatic part of you, is saying that, okay, we're at the doorstep of something big here at Clemson of making the postseason. And I want Mitchell ready for the postseason. Do I spin him on this try if he says he can give it a go? Or do I err on the side of caution and not let him play in this ball game? That's a difficult choice that Brad Brownell has, of course, with Clemson's medical staff.
If he's cleared, he plays. In my opinion, if the staff clears him, he plays. But I
don't like him. I don't like him playing. I don't like him playing after not practicing, especially after how he looked.
Well, I was going to say he looked obviously out on his feet when they took him off the floor. after taking that hit the other night. But I mean, look, if the doctors say he is fine and he's not going to hurt himself any further, he can play, and he's practiced enough and he knows everything he needs to be done out there. I don't know about all that. I'm playing him. If
it's not about
say he can play, and I think he would be an asset to the team on Sunday.
The practice part of it has nothing to do with his preparation. It has everything to do with whether or not, after sustaining that head injury,
timing.
not even timing, whether or not he can physically go through, a 2.5 hour strenuous workout period. Concussions are very fickle things, and it affects guys differently either way. Think about what happened with Mark Donnell earlier this season. He went down late in the ball game with concussion-like symptoms and really didn't look like anything, and he was out the next ball game. And we could say that Shelton Mitchell's injury probably looked a lot more it looked a lot worse than Mark Donnell's injury was, especially looking at what he looked like coming off the floor. He didn't even have his legs underneath him when he was carried off the floor. I think it's very hard to defend playing him on Sunday if he doesn't practice today, and if he doesn't go through a walkthrough on Saturday. If he isn't at least able to complete a workout after that injury, it's hard to defend playing him, especially if you have him play on Sunday and it doesn't look right himself.
Yeah. Well, again, if the coaches clear him and say to Brad, he's totally clean to play, we have no issues. If he feels good, if he goes through pregame warmups and he's making his shots and he's not feeling any of the after effects. Now, this is probably not going to be the case because that looked like a very severe concussion based on how he looked coming off the floor. So I'm going to doubt that he'll be cleared to play, but if the doctors say he's okay and he shows no signs of any problems during warmups, I would play him if I'm Brad Brownell. All right, to the baseball scene now where things are going on as we speak. It's opening day, of course, around the state and all around the country. South Carolina and VMI playing in Columbia. A lot of offense in this one, Will. You've been monitoring it. Right now, the Gamecocks on the short end of the offense, trailing 7-5. They're going to the top of the sixth.
Yeah, VMI led off in the opening inning with an RBI single that came with 2 out. Interesting situation with Adam Hill on the mound, basically allowing a 2-out walk to kind of bind him. And South Carolina came back, put up a 4 spot in the opening inning, including a 2-run homer from Olsen. Jacob Olsen went deep in that one. VMI comes back with 2 in their half of the second and then 4 in the top of the 4th inning. South Carolina got 1 also in the 3rd, but right now 7-5 in the 6th. The real turning point of that ball game was a play in that 4th inning where South Carolina looked to have an inning-ending double play, a 2-6-3 variety with a ball on a check swing at the plate. The umpires, though, came together and ruled that the ball hit the batter instead of the ball hitting the bat. So it ended up extending the inning for VMI, and on the next batter, a couple of home runs came in for VMI in order to take that lead. Again, they now lead 7-5. The score right now in the top of the 6th. Clemson heads to the 9th inning down 4-1 to William and Mary. Right now, Clemson's offense struggling. Just 4 base runners in the game. Seth Beer in the 1st inning had a double, but then after that, really not much offense brewing. Clemson did get a run in the 6th inning on a sacrifice fly, but that's all for them. Trad Holbrook has won his debut at College of Charleston, beating Southeast Missouri State 6-3 in the opening game for the former USC head man.
Yeah, you go back to that call, Corn. I've seen a lot in baseball, but I don't think I've ever seen that before, where a guy swings at the pitch. And I don't know whether the umpire had called a strike, and then the ball hits him on the thigh, and everybody's into the dugout. And then he comes over and talks to Mark Kingston and talks to the VMI coach, and then they bring him back out. I've never seen that done before.
Ari Sachopoulos, a 2-for-3 day in that Charleston contest, including a home run, and Coastal Carolina all over Virginia Tech at baseball at the beach, 7-1. That score at Springbrook Stadium. They're currently in the bottom of the 5th.
It's called metrics. The umpires went to their metrics and
stop it
and reversed that call. Hill did not have a good start for the Gamecocks. ERA is not going to look good after his first outing. 4 innings. He gave up 7 earned runs. He walked 3. He struck out 6. He threw 84 pitches, 54 for strikes. So not a good outing for him. Gilreath is now in relief for the Gamecocks. They're going to have to rally in the 6th, down 7-5. We'll be right back.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Back we are, Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network, here on a Friday night from the Coaches Clinic here in Myrtle Beach, as well as our studios in downtown Columbia. If you want to jump on board, 800-956-7266 is our number. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com and on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. Now, coming up tonight, we will hopefully maybe grab a guest or two here at the clinic. All the coaches, I was wondering why the place is deserted. They're having a big meeting right now of all the head coaches to iron out some decisions regarding some high school football issues related to the summertime 7-on-7 leagues and things of that nature. So all these head coaches are together in one big banquet room discussing some of the key topics of the day related to high school football. So they'll be breaking out here soon, and we'll see who comes ambling by. Maybe we'll grab a coach or two. We'll have the full Monty on NASCAR for you tonight. Monty Dutton returns to the Sports Talk airways at 7:30. We'll do a little give and go tonight on the go side. Aaron Lucas, former Gamecock, will join us at 7:05 to talk about the Gamecocks in Auburn and the Legends weekend. Some comments from Brad Brownell. More from him. Of course, we had him on last night, but now we've got more from him talking about the situation with Shelton Mitchell. In fact, we'll hear from him coming up in just a moment. Again, baseball, VMI still leading USC. They go to the bottom of the sixth. It's 7-5. Bottom of the ninth. Clemson is down to William and Mary 4-1. Clemson losing its opener is nothing new, guys. I mean, they haven't won an opener in several years.
I believe it's since 2013, I want to say. Since 2013. And the last team they beat, ironically enough, on opening day was William and Mary. So it is 2013. In fact, that's the last time they won on opening day. They've just started out the ninth inning with a single. So one on, nobody out there. Carolina has one on and one out. They trail by 2 against VMI. They play in the bottom of the sixth. As we said earlier, 6-3 final. College of Charleston beat Southeast Missouri State, and they are headed to the bottom of the fifth in Conway, with Coastal leading Virginia Tech 7-1.
Hennessy started for Clemson, went 4 2/3, allowed 6 hits, 3 earned runs. He struck out 6. And he has been followed to the mound by Miller, who went 3 innings, gave up 2 hits and 1 earned run.
He looked good.
Huggins,
he had a lot of movement on his fastball, which was very good.
Huggins went a third of an inning, got a strikeout, and Spires is in now. He's gone an inning, giving up a hit. So the Tigers are facing defeat in their opener unless they can rally. USC is facing defeat in its opener unless it can rally. Furman is going to win its opener over Marist. Barring a complete collapse. Bottom of the 8th, Paladins up on Marist 13-2, 13-14-1 for the Paladins, 2-8-3 for Marist. We're keeping an eye on all those games and others. Now, I have been handed the sheets with the coaching staffs for the Touchstone Energy North-South All-Star Football game.
Read them away.
This information held undercover, away from all Russian spies and everybody else who might steal it.
Easy.
We are the first to bring it to you here on Sports Talk. So, your head coach of the North for the North-South Touchstone Energy Bowl 2018 game here at Myrtle Beach. Head coach of the North will be Don Frost of Christ Church. His assistants will be Brian Lane of Clover, Lynn Fleming of Broome, Charlie Poole of McBee, Chris Wofford of Clennon, and Wayne Bell from Saluda. The head coach of the South will be Wayne Farmer from Scotts Branch, assisted by Tom Knotts of Dutch Fork. Just saw him a little while ago. Chad Leapart from Gilbert, Anthony Sterling of Burke, Mitch Strange of Chapin, and David Smith of Killian. Of course, the Shrine Bowl staff was announced at Shrine Bowl, or at least the head coach was. Not sure if the entire staff was announced. I think it was. Jackie Hayes of Dillon will be the head coach. Steve LaPratt of Fort Dorchester. Chris Miller of Spartanburg. Kenneth Tucker of Bethune-Bowman. Marion Brown of Baptist Hill. Steve Blanchard of Hanahan. And Kelvin Roller of Dillon will be the assistants. Now, here tonight, they have their banquet coming up at 7 o'clock. And several coaches will receive distinguished coaching awards. J.R. Boyd from Lamar and Lawrence, and also Lamar again. Steve Boyd, his brother from Indian Land, Fort Mill, and York. Reed Sharpia from Irmo, Newberry College, Midland Valley, Marlboro County, and Woodland. Shell Dula from 96, Union and Greenwood, and Mark Strickland from Hartsville, Wofford, and Lancaster. And 2 coaches will be honored by going into the Strength Coaches Hall of Fame. Brian Jackson of Sumter and Ken Cribb from Bluffton. Now he's coaching over in Savannah, but he was at Bluffton for several years. So we congratulate all those coaches. The other nice thing about this event is you've got football merchandisers from all over the state and all over the region here with their wares on display. I mean, helmets of all kinds and footballs and tackling dummies, chain gear, you name it. If you need it for football, you need a way to outline your field or fertilizer for your grass, all that kind of stuff is on display here. It gives the coaches a chance, of course, to come in and make purchases and order things for their upcoming season.
Can you pick me up one of those dial-it-down machines? Because I'm short one.
Yeah.
I'm short one.
Yeah. Do you want the kind that's lit?
Yes.
So the kind that glows in the dark, so to speak.
Well, I used to like the ones that had the little thing on the side, the little lever on the side.
I've seen 2 former Gamecock great receivers just walk by here last little bit. From the past era, Eddie Muldrow just walked through. Former Gamecock receiver, of course, wanted to do great things as a high school football coach in the state. And Brian Scott. Everybody remembers Brian Scott in South Carolina from Darlington. He's now the receiver at West Florence. Had that great catch to beat Georgia back in the day. Remember that pro when I think it was Bob Fulton on the call, and I think Tommy Suggs jumped in all over him there when he made that catch. Remember that?
Well, actually, you remember it was the Georgia announcers before.
That's what it was.
Yeah,
it was Larry Munson.
Larry Munson, before he could say it, you could hear the color guy going,
That's what it was, yeah. It was Larry Munson, exactly. Wasn't that, was that not Skip Holt? Was that not Lou Holtz? He was on Lou Holtz's team, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was on Lou Holtz's team. The 2 teams that won the back-to-back Outback Bowls against Ohio State.
Yeah. All right, so we got some people starting to filter in here. We'll see who we might grab as time moves on. Congratulations to Chad Holbrook. You mentioned this, but he opens up with a win over Southeast Missouri, 6-3 for the Cougars, winning at home. Evan Sisk gets the victory to go to, of course, 1-0. And, that's got to be good for him to get off to a win at his new place. And for Jim Toman as well, and that staff down there kind of starting over, trying to rebuild things with the Cougars, and good win for them to open the season. But we have to remember, of course, guys, this isn't football where a loss can damage you for weeks. I mean, this is baseball. They got 55 more games to go in the regular season. Win or lose today or over the weekend is not going to tell the story of your season by any means.
Clemson's threatening in the 9th inning with 2 out. They have 2nd and 3rd, trailing by 3 to William and Mary. Seth Beer with a hit by pitch ended up on base, and Williams gets himself a double as well for the Tigers. So still with some waiting breaths on the Tigers.
Well, you talk about the middle of that lineup. They actually have Davis batting leadoff. He has a couple of hits at the top of the order. Beer has a hit, a double, and Williams playing first base has a hit, a double as well. Tigers have not hit a home run today, so it's going to take some 2-out magic to save the Tigers behind in this one against William & Mary, trailing 4-1. Let's see. Coming up, we're going to hear from Brad Brown now. Of course, we had him on last night, but he talked more today about Shelton Mitchell. And we'll hear from him, but what was the overview that he gave to the media today?
Again, just he doesn't seem like he's likely to play with Mitchell, but as far as all the moving parts that are possibly in and out of the game between Mitchell and Bagley, he wants to try to keep things focused on what they can control and what's inside their locker room, because they're not good enough to overlook anybody, obviously, including a Duke team that comes in here having played pretty well, especially with that victory over Virginia Tech early this week.
All right, one more baseball score. Presbyterian opens its season with a 7-3 win over LaSalle over in Clinton. We'll be right back. You know what I love about the coaches clinic, man? You can be anywhere in the hallway, in a room, and coaches are coaching up X's and O's with one another. I'm watching two coaches right in front of me showing how you block. I guess he's showing a guy how to block coming off the line of scrimmage or whatever, how to use your hands and this sort of stuff. That's all these guys do.
Anyone writing up any
12 hours?
Anybody writing up any Super Bowl winning plays like Hunter Spivey?
Well, yeah, that's entirely possible. This is where it all starts. And man, these guys get together, they share ideas, they X and O, and there's probably a few napkins been passed around with You try this idea. You try put this guy here, move this guy there. It's fascinating to watch these guys do this. And football has become such a 12-month out of the year thing, nonstop in terms of training and education and trying to improve the sport, trying to make the sport safer. I saw Johnny Roscoe here, of course, longtime South Carolina coach, very much involved in trying to make the game safer, along with former coach Moose Wallace, who's really thrown a lot of his time and effort into working with USA football for improving tackling and just making the game just a whole lot safer. So that's one of the things that they talk about here, no doubt, and just love to watch these guys do their thing. All right. Clemson's trying to pull one out, huh?
Mm-hmm. Again. They got 2 runs on a little looping single by Jolly. Grayson Bird got himself on base as well as it with an intentional walk. Right now it's first and second, 2 away. And Kyle Wilkie is the last hope for the Tigers. Is a 2-1 count facing him right now. And William Mary's closer right now, 39 pitches deep and laboring.
Wow, that's tremendous. You know, you guys were talking about guys sitting around making plays or writing up plays. It seems to me years ago the thing was you tell your guy to knock your guy off the line of scrimmage, let's go. With the quickness and speed at all positions now, it seems that the premium is on testing a guy's eye discipline to read his keys. And if you can throw him off reading his keys, then maybe you have a successful play.
You're exactly right. I mean, that's one of the things that we've heard coaches mention over and over again here of late. Eye discipline, where their eyes. I think Brent Venables might have been, not that he invented it, he might have been one of the first coaches I was around to hear, and I've heard him say, eye discipline, where your head's facing, making sure that you're looking at the right place. That's become so important with these RPOs because it's all about trying to fool the defensive man and have him thinking you're doing one thing and you end up doing something else. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, all of that is part of it now, and these guys are discussing the various parts of how to improve that area if you're a defensive player, or prevent it if you're an offensive player. Updating the Gamecocks and the Keydets. VMI is hanging in there still, 7-5. VMI top of the 7th, 2 outs. Gamecocks scored 4 runs in the first, 1 run in the third, and that's it. 5-9-0 for them. 7-8-2 for VMI. Again, you don't want to make too much of the opening game, guys, but I wonder if there's a little bit of concern about how Adam Hill threw today for the Gamecocks, only making it through 4 innings and allowing 7 earned runs against a SoCon. SoCon. Yes. My Big South. Yeah, okay.
SoCon.
They were Big South, SoCon. Anyway, against an inferior opponent, really. Obviously not sharp in his opening outing today.
Well, it's weird. The wind was blowing out. That's one thing that they kept mentioning today. And if you've been around Columbia today, you know that the wind is kind of swirling. So it is, I wouldn't call it unseasonably warm because we're used to warm temperatures here in the Palmetto State, but 80 degrees for opening day of baseball. It's tailor-made for hitting.
And of course, we're not. You say don't take it seriously because it just opened the game. Well, apparently nobody told the VMI coach not to take it seriously because he's opened up a can of 20 pitchers in this game.
Yeah,
trotting them in and out to try to keep South Carolina at bay.
And he pulled a guy who won the Southern Conference Pitcher of the Year award last year out of the baseball game. So they're acting like this is like Game 7 of the World Series here. Clemson has had a walk to Wilkie to load the bases, and they're juiced with 2 out here in the bottom of the 9th, down 1, and Cromwell will hit, and it will be against a new pitcher for William and Mary. So basically high intensity right now at Doug Kingsmore Stadium there.
Yeah, this is a real strain for William and Mary as they bring in a pitcher named Strain to try to save the day. Bases loaded, and you set the stage for it here. So now we've seen Clemson do this before. Fall behind against a lower level team and then find a way to pull it out in the latter innings. We'll see if the Tigers come up with the big hit.
They all look the same.
4-3.
They all look the same on the scoreboard, Corn.
Yeah, we sat here. We sat here last year, Corn. I believe they fell down 9-0 and pulled it out. So this is the Tigers'
script. What I'm talking about.
Yeah, Monty Lee. He must love Maalox because his team really just squeezes it out to the bitter end.
Coastal now up 9-1 on Virginia Tech. Part of baseball at the beach. That's in the top of the sixth for Coastal today. Home runs by Woodall. That was in his first at bat of the season. In the bottom of the first, that was a 2-run homer. Rivers has also homered for the Chanticleers, so they're having a good day. Billis on the mound, obviously pitching extremely well. He's allowed only 4 hits to this point. So he's pitched well. The offense has come around for Coastal, so it's going to be a good start for Gary Gilmore, who was, he was worried going into this game and into this baseball at the beach because the opponents are so good. Mm-hmm. He doesn't really have a great feel for his team yet with so many new guys, but he's hoping that they kind of play with that edge that they had in 2018. Seemed to have lost that last year as a defending national champ.
You could argue that they don't have there's not a tougher 4-game stretch for a Division I team in the opening weekend with Virginia Tech, Oklahoma, Kansas State, and Indiana. Now they get them all at home, but that's still a rough stretch for any team, even ones that aren't necessarily at step with themselves.
Well, and he's looking for RPI wins as well, because they didn't have, as he said to us last night, he didn't feel like they had any real eye-popping wins, and when they came up short in the Sun Belt tournament, they couldn't rely on their overall body of work to get them into the tournament. So he's hoping that he'll get a few wins this weekend, and then down the road, maybe beat a Clemson and maybe beat a College of Charleston. He's going to play North Carolina, going to play Wake Forest. He can get some wins in there. That will help them if it comes down to decision-making time by the committee. All right, Clemson down to its last strike, facing an 0-2 situation, bases loaded. Bottom of the ninth, and William and Mary trying to hang on. Let's hear from Brad Brownell, shall we, Will, and hear what he had to say about Shelton Mitchell's status for Sunday afternoon?
I haven't talked to the doctors. I would assume it's unlikely that he'll play right now, but I haven't talked to anybody today. I'm going to do that here basically as soon as I really came right from my car to this press conference. Obviously been gone all day, so but I think it's unlikely that he'll be out there practicing today at all, and unlikely that he would play on Sunday. For me, the bigger concern for me is just our team, and mostly that's what coaches are thinking about. Is not, you are worried about who you're playing and certainly putting a plan together, but you're worried about what your team looks like, and we'll adjust again. We've had to do it already, and our guys have done well with it for the most part. And you hate for anybody to be hurt right now. This is a exciting time of year, fun time of year, great games. You want your guys that are your best players and the kids that have worked extremely hard and put in the time and have experience to be out there. But we've got a lot of other guys on scholarship, and it's their turn to step up and play and do good things.
All right, Brad Brownell talking about Shelton Mitchell, and I guess, just crossing his fingers and hoping that everything will be okay by Sunday. But if not, it's what is it? Next man up. That's going to be Clyde Trapp. Next man up, going to have to step into that lineup. And between him and Amir Sims as well, another guy who's had to step up in the absence of an injured teammate, going to have to play very, very big against Duke.
Clemson just had a game on a wild pitch.
Just tied the game on a wild pitch. That's a sorry way to blow a potential victory if you're William and Mary. All right, we'll be back with more in a moment.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network here on a Friday night from Myrtle Beach at the Coaches Clinic. We are surrounded now by coaches who are just standing around talking to one another.
Bring one of them on.
Steve LaPrade. Huh?
Bring one of them
Steve
on.
LaPrade from over. Yeah. Say what?
I said, bring one of them on.
Yeah,
I saw one of them.
I'm waiting for one of them who would be in a position to share some information with us to come walking by. So as soon as I see one, I'll do that. But I see Steve LaPrade from Fort Dorchester and Dr. Dean Boyd from Marlboro County. Just saw him. Johnny Roscoe, former coach. Just saw him come by. How are you, sir? So it's good to see all these fellows once again as they, they relax, have a little fun here at the beach, do some clinicking, learn more about their sport, and take some ideas back to their school to work on here in the spring. All right, so what's the latest up at Clemson?
So as we told you right before the break, they had a wild pitch that scored the run. The bases were loaded at the time, but Cromwell strikes out to end the inning. Free baseball at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. Riley Gilliam on the pitch for the Tigers as they start the top of the 10th, tied at 4 with William and Mary. Still 7-5. VMI leads South Carolina in the bottom of the 7th inning. 1 on, 2 out for the Gamecocks, trailing by 2.
All right, very good. So Clemson did manage to rally and enforce extras, and the Gamecocks are going to have to rally as well if they're going to save the day against VMI. Coastal up 9-1 on Virginia Tech. They're at the top of the 7th there, playing over at the Springbrook Stadium on the Coastal campus in the opening game for them of baseball at the beach. Let's jump into some recruiting here on this Friday night. Got a lot of information to share with you, so we begin with a couple of more guys who are visiting South Carolina unofficially tomorrow. USC having some guys in to visit with the coaches, check out academics, check out the campus, things of that nature. And one will be Georgia defensive back Jalen McCullough out of Powder Springs, 6'1", 190, making his first trip to the campus. He's a big-time safety. He's also a running back. Bobby Bentley, he's recruiting him for South Carolina, wants him for running back, but Will Muschamp, well, he tells him as an athlete, but you got to believe if they get him that Muschamp will win that argument. He'll play safety for them, but he could play either way. Likes Muschamp a lot, likes Bentley. They are on him very hard at this point, and he said that South Carolina's recent success gives him an extra reason to consider the Gamecocks in his top group, which also includes Auburn, Alabama, Florida State, Tennessee, Georgia, and Ohio State. He will visit Auburn on Wednesday, and that'll be his final visit prior to spring ball. That will leave him only Ohio State and Florida. Florida State among his favorites he's yet to visit during this run through schools as far as getting visits done, and he plans to see them in the spring. He'd like to take 1 or 2 officials in the spring and the rest in the fall. He'll be an early graduate, no leader at this point. Last year on defense, 120 tackles, 6 pass breakups, 2 sacks, and an interception, 562 rushing yards, and 8 touchdowns on offense. Also coming in, offensive lineman Jalen Humphreys of Lawrenceville, 6'5", 301. And he was offered by USC last July while he was in for a camp. He returned for the Florida game last season, so he's already got a pretty good feel for the program. You know, the thing that I hear about players at USC is recruiting now, one of their common themes is up and coming. USC is an up and coming program. So they look at the 9 wins coming off the 6 wins, coming off the 3 wins, and they see a trend upward for USC, and that's obviously being sold to them in the recruiting process. So he's coming in to look at South Carolina. The Gamecocks are in his top group right now with Georgia and Florida. Right now, those are his primary 3, USC, Georgia, and Florida. And he said he could take some officials in the spring. He's also returning to USC for camps this summer. And he had 84 tackles. He played defense also last year. And on defense, he had 84 tackles and 6 sacks. So we have him as an offensive lineman, but I guess he could also play on the defensive side as well. And he does plan to graduate and sign early. Clemson is showing interest in 2020 offensive lineman Jake Seidel, 6'6", 260 of
Imperial, Missouri.
Missouri.
Yes. Seckman
High
High
School.
School.
They make the spread?
No.
Is that where they make the spread, Imperial spread?
No. Seckman High School. I used to cover that.
Neither do they make the car there, the old Imperial.
No.
Oh,
Two high schools there in
He plans-
Jefferson County.
He plans to visit next month. Clemson offered defensive back Derek Stingley of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, heavily recruited. LSU, Alabama, Auburn, Texas A&M, Georgia Tech, Arkansas, Arizona State, some other offers. Clemson offered defensive end Nathan Pickering, 6'5", 277 of Seminary, Mississippi. He'll visit LSU Saturday. Some of his others on his list are Auburn, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Southern Cal, Stanford, Duke, Notre Dame, and Texas A&M. Emerald tight end Luke Deal was offered by Notre Dame and by South Florida. He just picked those up. Notre Dame was today. And coming up, he's going to be taking visits to Florida on the 24th and Auburn on March 3rd. And he also has offers from Purdue, Auburn, Maryland, Rice, and Coastal Carolina. Thus far, not getting much attention from USC or Clemson, he tells us. So we'll see if anything more develops there. Coach Tom Knotts of Dutch Fork told me, asked him about Bryce Thompson, and he said that you'll jump on with me real quick? Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's fine. Coach Wayne Green, who's the head of the coaches thing, I want to get him on with us and talk about their meeting. He said Thompson is not taking a visit this weekend. He thinks he's going to take a visit to Tennessee next weekend. Of course, he is committed to USC to get the academic work done. That's where he wants to go, but could be taking that visit to Tennessee next weekend. Okay, I think that covers what we have for you in recruiting. Any more baseball developments since the last time we checked?
Gamecocks have the bases loaded here in the bottom of the seventh. The inning got extended after a dropped third strike. So they're trailing by 2, a chance to possibly break things open here and possibly get themselves back to square with Noah Campbell, the leadoff man at the plate, 1 for 4 today with a single.
All right, I've got Coach Wayne Green here with me. He is, I guess, the head man over these high school football coaches, and just had a very big meeting.
No. I am certainly not the head man. I was the president back in 2002.
Okay.
I am actually a retiring coach.
Okay.
That just
I
was
knew you
over
were
that
retiring,
meeting.
but I thought you, okay, so you headed up the meeting.
Yeah, I headed up the meeting. I am on that board, but I am not the head of that board.
Give us the gist of the meeting.
Well, we just want to make sure that that football stays strong in South Carolina. There's a lot of stuff going on with concussions, and there's a lot of research that has been, I guess, falsely printed out there. There's a lot that's going on. We have some articles. We have research that is available to us that paints a much broader picture than what has been painted. The sad part about this is so many of our young people today need something that's going to teach them selflessness and discipline, and so many things that they can learn from football. And there's some states that's talking about the possibility of taking away youth football, and the possibility even of junior high school football. And I really think that is a mistake. I'm retired, so I don't have a dog in this fight anymore. So it's not like I'm trying to help my own football program. This is all about us having all the information we need before we make a decision like that. And we don't have all the information we need now.
Yeah.
I think you make the game less safe if you can't start teaching a young person how to block and tackle until he's in the 9th grade. Because if he's in the 9th grade before he starts, he's already way behind. I think you have made the game less safe than what it was before.
Yeah. I got to hit a break here at the top of the hour. You going to mingle for a little bit?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm going in there. I'll be in that meeting.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll grab you before you go in. We can finish this up on the other side.
Okay.
About 5 or 6 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Appreciate you.
All right.
Wayne Green stopping by here real quick at the coaches clinic, as you just heard, coming out of that big meeting with the high school coaches. We'll get more with him coming up.